Hello again, everyone. We're back with the second half of this lecture, which is all about resumes. And again, this is about helping you not live with your parents for the rest of your life. Look at the terrifying statistics on the left here. The percentage of millennials living at home with their parents by US state. Wow. California, 40%, age 18 to 34. New Mexico, 36. Texas, 33. Where's the highest? Pennsylvania, 37. New York, 40% of millennials are still living at home. Now, okay, part of this is definitely economic reasons and it's not fair to millennials. I totally accept that. But also, some of it might be that people weren't trained how to go job search very well. It's amazing how many people still go to job interviews with their parents. That is totally a red flag for employers. You certainly don't want to do that. You certainly don't want to bring your parent to a meeting with your professor at Fanshawe either. It doesn't send a very strong signal about your work abilities. So let's talk about one of the most important ways that you can get hired, which is with an amazing next level resume. Okay, let's teach you how to create one of those. I'll give you real world examples. Again, we start always with purpose. Why bother doing this? What's the purpose of a resume? You might think you know, but let's review it anyway. So obviously, it's a detail of your work history. What have you done that would be relevant to an employer if you're looking for a job now? It's going to highlight specific skills. So those are, basket weaving or bridge building or communications or organization, and then duties. So I clean the toilets, or I stocked the shelves, or I sold to customers, or I made coffee as a barista. Those are duties. This is also going to act as a complement to your cover letter. So they go together. The employer will read the cover letter first, and then if they're interested after that, they'll go to your resume. If you just send a resume, you're missing an opportunity to sell your resume. So this is what you need to do: is have both, and they should be working together. And the resume should differentiate you from, again, 1,000 other job seekers applying for the same job. So hopefully it's 100% error free. It looks fantastic. It's well written, and we're going to use all the principles that we talk about today. So let's go. Components of a resume. All right. So what do we have here? A header. Yeah, that's a good thing to have. What's in a header? Your name at the top, usually in larger font, and maybe your contact information. Email and phone is usually perfectly adequate. You really don't need your address. It's not important unless you want them to know you're local. It's probably not important. Objective. This is one of the most hotly debated questions for the last 20, 30 years. Do you need an objective on your resume? I'm going to say no. And, some people might disagree, but please don't do it for this resume assignment. What is an objective? It usually is a line that says something like, objective, to gain experience in the field of marketing, working with your talented employees. Okay. In my opinion, it's freaking useless. There's no point in telling someone what your objective is. The fact that you're applying for this job, it already tells them that your objective is get this job, right? So I would not say, please don't add an objective. It's out of date by about 20 or 30 years. People have stopped doing this. Skills summary. Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. Employers would love to know at a glance, what are your top skills, right? Are you amazing with a bow staff? Are you, a great potter? Tell them that if it's relevant. Education, yes, absolutely. They want to know what kind of credentials you have. And unfortunately, that doesn't include your high school experience. Now, I will say that with a little caveat, because many of you will be fresh out of high school into Fanshawe, and you don't have a whole lot of academic experience. So, okay, if you want to include your high school, I'm not going to take marks off. An employer probably won't care, though. They don't care where you went to high school. If you're applying for a job where you need a high school diploma, then yes, and you don't have any furthering education. But all of you are in a great position because you're at Fanshawe. You have some post-secondary experience, which automatically means that you went to high school. You can't get into Fanshawe without a high school diploma, right? So absolutely include your education. Your work history, for sure, definitely, that's kind of the meat and potatoes of a resume. Volunteer work? Yeah, why not? Volunteerism shows that you're an active, engaged, positive member of the community, and that you're learning other skills for free, right? Special skills and awards, yes, definitely. You won the grade 9 math competition. I'll allow it. You're able to code in C++, for sure. That's important. Personal info, like, oh, I love CrossFit and basket weaving and I don't know why I keep going to that one. And I love craft beer. Nobody cares, right? Unless you're going to work at a brewery. It's not relevant. References. Wow, it's amazing how many people say references available upon request. No, don't include that. The employer knows if they want references, you're going to give it to them, or otherwise you're not going to get the job. You don't need to say that. That's a term that's been out of date. Again, it's antiquated for about 30 years. Do not put references available upon request, and especially don't list your references on the resume. They don't belong there. You give them if they need them. You don't need to do that. I don't know how that ever became a thing. Just if you don't believe me on the career objective, Google it. Should I include an objective on a resume? All of the top Google links are going to tell you no. Summary of qualifications. This is wonderful. So I have one on my resume because it gives people at the top of the resume, at a very quick glance, hey, what are my top skills? Okay, some skills might be communication, time management, leadership, adaptability. A lot of these are on the right are soft skills, as we say, right? Soft versus hard skills. Hard skills being specific. Hey, I have a degree in accounting, or I know how to use Bitcoin. Whereas soft skills are more soft: communication, conflict resolution, adaptability. Right? They're more qualities or values than specifics. Now, you do want to include some soft skills because search engines might be looking for this. Employers might be using some software to sort through hundreds and thousands of resumes. You want those keywords to be in there. The job sites like Indeed and Monster, they certainly use those keywords. So make sure it is in your resume somewhere, these things. Now, careful about being too generic. If you say I'm a great leader, or I work great in a team, everyone's going to say that. So you might want to be slightly more specific about what your skills are. If you're creative, tell me how. I have my drawing skills are proficient. Anything like that. It's better than I'm creative. Continuing on here, hard skills. These are some that might be needed for the job. So data analysis, copywriting in a foreign language, computer languages, graphic design, hard skills. Those are things you can point to. Hey, I have training on this, right? Maybe you have a degree or a certificate of some kind. Yeah, and then soft skills are fine, but give examples. And then, by the way, that summary of your skills, you can usually go at the top of your resume so that it's like an introduction to your resume. Your education. Okay, here's a general rule of thumb. If you have more work experience than education, your work experience should go first. But if you have not been in the work world for very long, like probably many of you, and you have a good set of education in your background, then maybe put your education first, right? That's fine. Again, don't include high school, with the caveat that, okay, if you don't have anything else to add, then maybe you include it, especially if you were like the top student in your class or something like that. Definitely include Fanshawe. You are currently enrolled in Fanshawe. It tells the employer something very important, that you are getting your diploma, your degree, your training, and then tell them what is your expected graduation date, and maybe even if it's relevant, which courses. So, hey, I'm taking marketing, or I'm taking customer management, or whatever it is. And by the way, there's an important term in both, especially in the resume, reverse chronological order, right? Which only means chronological is just, chrono is from the Greek time, and logical is to be ordered. Do it reverse. So you go from your most recent job first at the top of your resume, then you go backwards in time, right? So 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, backwards. You don't put your oldest job at the top. That's going to dock you marks from this assignment. So here's an example of a section on your resume that says education. And look what we've done here. We have advanced diploma computer programming analyst. Okay, wonderful. So this is which degree you're taking, and you put the dates on the right side there. And by the way, if it's a degree in progress, your date can be in the future, right? If you're graduating 2025, then just say that as the last number there, where it says September. And then, okay, what's the college or university or school? There you go. Now we have bullets about what you've learned. If you're just saying, hey, I'm enrolled at Fanshawe in this program, tells the employer very little. But if you add these bullets here where you're telling them, hey, I know .NET Framework, C++, SQL, this is brilliant, because probably if you're including it, the employer needs to know that you have these hard skills, right? So bullets here in this case is wonderful, and it fleshes out that education section. Work history. Now we've come to again, the meat and potatoes of your resume. Again, you can swap this to be more persuasive. So if your education is really strong, start with education. If your work history is very strong, start with that first. And by the way, list only relevant jobs. If you're looking for a job as a computer programmer, and you did some landscaping, I don't know how much that's going to help you, to be honest. It's probably not going to help you to get the job, unless there's some soft skills that overlap, right? Again, reverse chronological order. My current job is the first, the one that was previous to that, and then you go back in time. Bullet points for duties, perfect, right? We'll show you an example of this in a second. Point form is fine. We don't need full sentences in the resume like we do in the cover letter. You can omit words as long as it kind of is getting your point across. And by the way, use parallelism and action verbs. What's parallelism? I've given you a slide deck for this. Go check FOL and to find it. You'll need it to help you write a good resume. But basically, you want to use, if you're using a list, you want all of your terms to be parallel. So you want to say something like created a filing system, managed a team of 5 people, built a system, right? These are words in a list that are kind of similar. You wouldn't say manage a team, built, and then I like to do this. No, you see that you're breaking the parallelism. You see that? Go read the slide deck on parallelism to understand that better. It's pretty short, I think, but it's helpful. And then action verbs, right? I mean, all verbs relate to actions, but some are more active than other, right? I sat in a cubicle and did this. No, it's not very active, right? No, I pursued customers relentlessly on the phone, right? Pursued is a more active word than sat, right? So be active if you can, because it shows that you're someone who gets things done. And if you're talking about your current job, you use a present tense. Seems obvious, right? Hope so. Not always. It doesn't always show up like that in assignments. And then past jobs, obviously, you talk about it in past tense. Makes sense, I hope. So here's some examples. This person was a grocery clerk from February to August 2017 at Yummy Market in Toronto. And then they list their duties and their skills, I guess. Gained organizational skills, great. You see what we're doing here? Gained, developed, collaborated. Those are all past tense. They're all in a similar format. So we're using parallelism, right? These are all parallel types of words. And you've got specifics, which is wonderful. Here we have Best Buy, full-time home solutions, the date and the location as well. That's fine. Provided, helped. That's parallel. Leadership and training to employees. That's important. Provide tech support and product knowledge to customers. Great. Helped launch and implement the Geek Squad membership program. Yeah, this is wonderful. So it's clear, it's formatted well, it's proper, looks good. By the way, you see here, there's no space after Yummy Market, and here there's a space after Best Buy. I don't care if you have a space or not, as long as you're consistent with every single entry in your resume. If you have a space after one, you need a space after the next one, right? If you're indenting 2 indents, you got to do that the whole way down, right? Don't have any inconsistencies in your font, indents, font size, etc. Right? Make sure the resume looks like you've polished it. Okay, continue on. Again, avoid personal data and things like that. Everyone knows references are available upon request. If they want them, they'll get them from you. List them only if required by the job ad. That's unusual, very unusual for someone to post a job ad that says, hey, give us your references right away. No, they don't want that right away. They only want it from the people that they're going to seriously consider. Avoid your hobbies, etc. It doesn't really help. I mean, okay, you read books. Does that make you smart? No, you may be reading comic books. Who knows? Playing video games doesn't necessarily make you a quick thinker. It might make you an escapist. I don't know. I love video games, so I'm not going to say anything. Loving nature and sports doesn't make you physically fit. I mean, you could maybe be watching nature documentaries on the couch while eating popcorn. Who knows? So again, the personal stuff, it usually doesn't add anything to your chances of getting a job. And except in very specific cases, right? Let's say you want to work for a brewery, and you should definitely have a knowledge of craft beer in that case, right? So that's where your personal intersects with your professional. Otherwise, omit your hobbies. You don't need it. Instead of that, add your volunteer work. Hopefully by now in your life, you've done some volunteering, whether that's even just for your parents in their business or it's for your neighbor cutting grass or clearing the snow. It shows that you have some kind of interest beyond just making money, right? That you're a good person, that you have character, which is important. Your character is almost as important as your skills in the work world. So look, if you worked for the United Way, say that, right? If you say I was a United Way campaign spokesperson, it translates into, for the employer, hey, I speak well in front of groups and I'm a good human being. I'm not a jerk. If you say you were a Little League coach, great. It means that I like sports and maybe I'm physically active. People can read between the lines and understand what you're saying here. If you say, hey, I like on my resume, you'll find, I think that, I worked for a drug and alcohol rehab place doing some grant writing. It tells people a lot. Again, the resume format, just like the cover letter, the format matters quite a lot. If it looks like crap, you won't get hired. I'll show you some crappy examples later. Presentation matters. By all means, use a resume template. You don't have to create this from scratch. This one on the right here is beautiful. It's not your standard resume, but it's certainly not terrible. It's telling your employer a lot about you, right? Listing the experience, education, certifications as you would expect. On the left side here, you've got a nice little sidebar with your skills and a ranking of all your software knowledge, right? Which is in some cases very helpful. This is not a standard resume, but it's not bad by any means. And when I say templates, you can simply go to Google and type in resume templates and find hundreds. If you go to Microsoft Word and that screen that pops up when you start, you can find resume templates. You can just search for that. Very, very handy. There's endless amounts of templates. You can just use their formatting as a shell and then plug in your own information. Just a caution, don't take any of the language from the template and use that as your own, because that will be considered plagiarism. And in the real world, the employer will think, hey, this person is not very creative or stealing ideas. Again, brand your resume and cover letter in the same style. So if your resume looks like this, your cover letter should look similar. And then, hey, again, something I'm really big on, graphical highlights. We're talking, especially in resumes, this is important. Headings, right? Experience, education, your dates, your indentation is a graphical highlight. Your bullets are a highlight. Bolding, italics, where it's relevant. Use graphical highlighting. It just makes your document look better, but also makes it more readable for your user. And then again, avoid the wall of text. Don't jam your resume into one page. Let it go on to two. 2 is fine. 3 is a no-no. Do never go to 3 pages with a resume. And by the way, there's a difference between a resume and a CV, which stands for curriculum vitae. A lot of people confuse these things. They think they're the same. They're not. Resume is 2 pages. A CV is literally means the course of your life in Latin, and that can be long, 10 pages, 20 pages even, right? It lists basically everything you've ever done in your work career. We're not doing a CV. That's very unusual. You only usually have a CV in academia or certain very technical jobs, but most places they want a resume that's maximum 2 pages. So anyway, avoid the wall of text, jamming text together, making it too small. Use white space. Here on the right, beautiful. Lots of white space. It's easy on the eyes. Again, use a template for sure. Don't copy paste the specifics, but here are 3 links. You can go and find really great templates. Google free resume and cover letter templates, or use the ones included with Microsoft Word. I am totally agnostic about you using those. In fact, it'll save you time. And why reinvent the wheel, right? Yeah, so here are some examples. Here's what I mean by formatting. This looks great. This is nice and easy to read. It's basically the same information, just formatted differently. All right, but you can see there's white space. There's consistency in the formatting. There are a few little icons here. I'm okay with that. That's fine. If you're putting your face on there, no, don't do your face. That's not appropriate. Anyway, these are actually pretty good looking resumes, right? But you don't need this stuff. You don't need the ratings of your skills. You don't need this. You don't need the icons either. So simple is better in my opinion. Here's a couple terrible resumes. Why are they terrible? Well, very low resolution. You can see the pixelation in Gregory Shupp, and it's very hard to read, very blurry. You've got weird bulleting. Yeah, it just doesn't look very good whatsoever, does it? No, it's small font. It's jammed together, ugly, right? Same here. Very strange. This is just a bleh. Someone just barfed on the page. Basically, it's just it's terribly ugly, right, and disorganized. It's not organized in any kind of logical way. Okay, so aside from what a resume looks like, there are actually 2 different kinds of resumes. There's a chronological resume, which it's all about what I did, what am I doing now, what did I do previous to that, and you keep going down the list for both your work history and your education. That's fine. That's the most common way to do a resume, chronologically. But then there's a functional resume, which is more, you're not really focusing on a long list of things you've done, but you're focusing on skills. All right. So, and my resume looks like this. I'll actually share that with you in a minute. Basically, a functional resume says, here are the skills I have organized into buckets. So one bucket might be marketing, one might be sales, one might be graphic design, one might be communications and writing. I personally, and I don't want this to sway you one way or another, I prefer the functional resume because you're able to swap out pieces and tailor your resume for a different job. By the way, yes, you always want to send a unique resume for every job posting you send out, right? You don't want to just think that, hey, I have one resume is good enough. No, tailor it to the job application. You want it to mirror the job application so that you look like a perfect candidate, just like this amazing candidate. Okay, what do I mean by chronological and functional? Yeah, again, it's the format we're used to, chronological. It arranges your experience in reverse chronological order. How far back do you go? Well, that's up to you. I mean, you might not want to list your summer job from grade 9, but if it's relevant, maybe you do, right? Ask the question, will this help you get the job? If it does, you list it. Functional resumes, it's also called a, skills-based resume. I think it's definitely becoming more popular. And I think it's better at showcasing your skills, which is like, employer doesn't care where you worked, really. They care about what you can do for them. And so it's much more relevant, I think, to talk about skills. So now we're creating categories: computer skills, customer service skills. You can add your hard and your soft skills. You're still on a functional resume going to make a list of where you worked. It's just not going to be as detailed. The detail will come in the skills section, right? So I think maybe let's continue a little bit and I'll show you examples. The main strength of a functional resume, you can tailor your resume to each job application. You can take bullets from one resume, take it out, add it in, move things around, and very easily have a resume that's fluid. It can change, whereas your chronological resume doesn't change so much. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the examples. So moving over to Word here. This is a very basic chronological resume, right? You've got your heading, address, phone, et cetera, et cetera. And then we dive right into experience. This is missing stuff, of course. This is the template I think you get from Microsoft Word. We dive right into experience, which, you know, these are headings, so they have a specific, they look different than the rest of the document. Then we've indented the dates where you worked there, from and to. Maybe it's 2018 to current. You can say current. Your job title in the company. And then you want to describe your responsibilities and achievements, right? What impact did you have? What results did you have? Be specific, use examples, but keep it short. Use point form, which means you don't need full sentences. As long as it makes sense, get the information across, be short. And then we go from most current to back in history. Education, same exact type of deal. We're going chronological backwards. And then you could, on a chronological resume, have a small section for your skills. They're not featured though. This is not a functional resume, so they're not featured. They're not the main show. And then you can add your volunteer work at the end here. All right, that's a basic chronological resume. Functional resume, same thing. You've got your heading, how to contact you, but we're not going right into your job experience. We're going to skills and abilities, or just skills. So here we have, look, management is one bucket. Sales, communication, leadership. This will make up the bulk of your resume. And in each of these bullets, you're going to tell someone why you're a good manager, why you're a good leader, or what you did, your achievements, your results achieved. And then you can go back and say, okay, here's a list of my job titles and my experience. Education probably is going to factor in after that. And you will add your volunteer stuff probably at the end, right? And you will not put references available on request. Good. Okay, so you see that there are two choices. You can use either one for this assignment and use either one with an employer. Most employers, they're not going to toss your resume if it's one or the other. They as long as the point is clear. Let's look at my resume. You'll notice I took my phone number out because I don't like getting phone calls on Sunday afternoons from students. That has happened before. So you look, I've got my contact info, I've got my name as a heading. I've got a very brief summary of my qualifications. You know, I did 10 years in this, 7 years of experience as a writer, built 3 successful startups, et cetera, and my, you know, master's degree. Then I have a very limited employment history. Not limited in the number of entries, but limited in, I'm not giving them a ton of detail. The detail comes later, right? So here we are. This is the meat of this resume. Relevant skills and experience. Okay, so I've got partnership and leadership. That's one of my skill sets, skills buckets call it. Public and media relations. Then I continue on the second page. Fundraising, communications, policy and research. And then my education toward the end and volunteer experience. Now, this one was, I'm sure I tailored this to the job description. I didn't normally have a fundraising section, but I think what I was applying for was a job to work with a nonprofit to help them raise some money. So obviously fundraising is going to factor in there, right? So this resume changes every time I apply for a different job. And usually my guide for what my resume should look like is the job description, right? So they probably were asking for communications, fundraising, media relations, et cetera, et cetera. And then I go into details here. So what's the company? And then what's like my main achievement, right? I just did one main achievement in each, but I'm being specific. Built a community of 3,000 plus writers. Managed 50 sales agents, bringing solar lighting to 1,000 plus families. You know, built an Instagram account with 21,000 followers. Specific, right? If you can quantify, in other words, use numbers, that's great. What was your specific accomplishment? Okay, we don't need to belabor that. Let's close it down. All right, back over to the slide deck. So another thing I want to talk about is errors. People make typos, it happens, but it can't happen on your resume or your cover letter. Here's something from, where is this from? I forget now, but anyway, this article is saying, job seekers take note, one false stroke at the keyboard could send your resume to the circular file. That's the garbage. 3 out of 4 executive interviewed said just 1 or 2 typos in a resume would remove applicants from consideration for a job. 40% say it takes only 1 typo to rule candidates out. People are ruthless, and they have to be. They're interviewing hundreds or thousands of people. A typo shows them that you lack attention to detail, that you don't care enough about this job application to very carefully look at every word of your resume or cover letter. And if you're not going to be careful with your resume or cover letter, you're not going to be usually a good employee. Okay. So unfortunately, typos matter to a very high degree, and they're going to matter in this assignment as well. So, 1 typo, you're going to lose a mark. 2 typos is 2 marks on down the line. So please proofread a couple times your documents. What else are they saying here? When asked to identify the most common resume mistakes that may lead them to automatically dismiss a candidate, employers pointed to the following. Number 1, resumes that have typos. This is just another study from 2013. What else? Resumes that are generic and don't seem personalized for the position. Yeah, huge. Resumes that don't include a list of skills. Aha, skills are important. Resumes that copy a large amount of wording from the job posting. Yeah, see, that's a double-edged sword. You don't want to steal language from the job posting. And oh, by the way, inappropriate email address. Please have a professional email address. It should be first name, last name at whatever. I'm biased, but I don't think Hotmail or Yahoo or AOL are professional email accounts. Gmail, yes. Professionals use Gmail. Professionals use, like, hey, go buy your domain name. Go buy MikePietchuk.com, right? Well, you can't. I've already got it. But you know what I mean? Like, don't use and don't be like, warrior27 at gmail.com. That's kind of unprofessional. Just use your real name. It's better. Resume Hall of Shame. Here's some things that I've seen. Received a plague for Salesperson of the Year. Again, spell check is not gonna catch words that are real words in the dictionary, even if you use them incorrectly. Hope you didn't get a plague. Reason for leaving last job? Maturity leave. Failed bar exam with relatively high grades. I think it means pass bar exam. Utmost, not upmost. Utmost. I'll do my utmost. That means something. Upmost, I'm not even sure if that's a word, but it probably, if it is, it means the top. I mean, it's not the right word. Please make sure you're using the right word for the situation, not a similar word. Again, be professional. So my friendly aura is a more spiritual, new age word. It's not really a professional word. Instead of aura, maybe your disposition, right? More professional. And if you're not sure what the word, dictionary.com, acuity is what you want here, not mental ambiguity, which means you're kind of nebulous or vague about it. I supervised the team at various football games as they led cheers and entertained the crows. And the question is, what about the other birds, right? Small little mistake, but could cost you the job. So proofread. All right, that's it for today. Head over to FOL and check out the assignment, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.